As you might have noticed at the top of the call, I want to know where everyone is connecting from. So when you join us, let us know whereabouts you're coming from. We got Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from Soup's Inappropriate Wildebeest. Existing Centipedes coming to us from beautiful Eastern Ontario. I got eaten alive by a mosquito in Eastern Ontario once. Just the one mosquito. You guys do them differently there.
I had a mosquito experience in Ontario as well. Western Ontario, though.
I mean, it's Manitoba where they took my firstborn and I never saw them again.
Yeah, that was quite. My kids called it the mosquito apocalypse, and they still remember it to this day, probably about 10 years ago.
Oh, I mean, actually, maybe that's how I'll start this call off. You guys want to hear about my worst interactions with mosquitoes ever? It was a beautiful sunset and just outside of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Went mini golfing with my grandma, and I was covered in bug screen, thank God, because the entire time, just basically mosquitoes were hovering and landing on my body for a solid hour. Got quite a few bites, but it's the first time I've ever heard somebody advocate for DEET in a way where I was like, oh, I get it. Because, yeah, my grandma would have weighed about 40 pounds then. They would have just taken her and flown off if she wasn't covered in the stuff. Point being, you folks in Ontario and Manitoba, tougher stuff, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, quite an experience. All right, Bryce, you've got a community call agenda here somewhere that I was looking at. Thank you for putting that together.
Absolutely do. Just as folks file in, I already see we got close to 50 people joining us. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. As I said at the beginning of this call, first of all, let us know where you're connecting from if you haven't already. A special community call to the point where I should probably show my face, regardless of how it actually looks. Hey, yet another bad hair day. It's your guys' joy. So, special community call. We are going to try and make the most of it for you. First and foremost was to potentially accommodate pilots who can't make the normal 2:30 p.m. time, Pacific that is. So in the hopes that they can potentially join us closer to 3 or 3:30 or even at the tail end of 4 and still get the news and participate in some way. And if not, no problem. We'll learn something. You're welcome to attend for this entire 90 minutes. We're going to be doing one last hurrah for XP rewards throughout the call. So it's going to be worth your time, some drone trivia, some community feedback. But if you can only attend for a few minutes, we'll go over the most pressing stuff and we'll repeat it throughout the call. We'll be discussing Niantic and the next few missions, next few weeks of missions shortly. And again, we'll be repeating that throughout the call. So if anyone joins late, first of all, if they have any questions, drop them in chat. But if you know the answer, or it's a question worth flagging, let us know. A few folks sent me some questions in advance, but not a ton. So if you do have any, feel free to drop them in the chat. Just keep in mind, it's a bit lively today, so you might need to ask twice at some point. Graham, I think that's it for the Riot Act. That brings us to the most thrilling point of the call. Product updates. I believe version 2.7 just shipped, and everyone should update to the latest version as soon as possible. Added an action link support for notifications, so this comes up a lot. It's easier to jump directly to the relevant flights or actions when you get a notification. Improved DJI Max altitude pre-flight check, some app crashes related to local app data being accessed after it was closed, and updated the DJI SDK5 support to the latest version. I don't think there's anything else around that update to call out, Grammar Nav, but feel free to jump in if you disagree.
I'll just clarity on some of the mission errors. So the one about the max altitude, the drone used to just stop, hover, and then I think the subsequent release, it would give you a warning saying that the virtual sticks could not be enabled because it was trying to drive the drone through DJI safety ceiling. Set within DJI Fly. So now that should tell you exactly what the issue is and what to go do about it. So these are the types of things that, as we release, as we deploy different product releases, you guys catch these things, you find these things, you report them, you open tickets, which is really helpful because then we can troubleshoot and then improve that messaging for yourselves and for other pilots who join. So keep that up. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, then if that is product updates, let's jump into the announcements. We're going to go from most urgent to least urgent. And the most urgent is, today is the absolute last day for new XP rewards. What this means is honestly very little about what you actually have to do. But if you have been earning XP, just make sure you have a wallet connected to your Zealy account. You should already have your Discord if you've been earning XP. The vast majority of you have already done this if you're earning XP, to be clear. And in fact, everyone I think has. But it's the one thing you need to do to qualify for any future rewards tied to the program, which is why I've just been hammering on it repeatedly. Super simple to do. Just go over to your account settings, check active connections, and see if you have a wallet attached. It's just that simple. Otherwise, that's it. We will be providing some XP throughout today's call as we ask you guys questions, and you provide some answers in the chat and a variety of other things. Next most urgent thing, it's a bit of a banner week. It's the end of Mini 2 at the end of this week, or rather at the end of this month, I guess Sunday. It's the 31st. That is the end of the app. And also, I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing this, but just to be clear on what's happening here, Google Play's new 16 kilobyte memory page size requirement blocks updates to any app using DJI's older SDK. And that's required for Mini 2 compatibility. This is a Google DJI constraint. It's not a Spexi decision. So to be absolutely clear, May 31st, absolute final day the Mini 2 app functions. June 1st, 2026, the app is unpublished. Flights are no longer accepted on the network. There are no clever workarounds for this, so please don't attempt it. So a few folks asking about that. That brings me to what is perhaps the most headline-worthy news. Niantic is partnering with Spexi. Graham, I have been doing a lot of the talking around this, and I'm happy to keep talking. Have a whole podcast where you guys can hear me do that. But did you maybe want to tell us a little bit more about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I want to start with a thank you to all the pilots who have ever flown from the UK to Seattle to LA to, if it was a grid map flight, it was pretty well for Niantic, San Francisco. That was developed in partnership with them a long time ago. It's been probably more than a year that we've been in discussions with them and work on this partnership with them, and they've been trying to optimize that data for their pipeline. That turned into a joint go-to-market conversation with them, and then developed into a bigger partnership to become what it is today, which is really, really exciting for our team. Obviously, an announcement like that with a company with the history and the sort of cachet in the mapping space of Niantic and a Niantic Spatial is amazing. So we're super excited for that, and that wouldn't have been possible without all of that data collection, all of that testing, pilots who tested at different altitudes, pilots who work through having to refly many zones and submit tickets to nav, and work with him for upload errors and collection errors and all sorts of things. So really cool. Some of the splatting stuff that they've been doing and the mesh building and things like that are awesome. And that's still a go-to-market partnership, which means that we along with them are now bringing that to clients in the marketplace. And so if you work in any of those markets, or if you're familiar with anyone in those markets, feel free to reach out and share your thoughts, because it's our next step of this business, and we'll be talking some about that today, is what the next phase of this business looks like. But that's a big unlock for us, and we're excited about it.
Absolutely. All right. I think that takes us straight into what our mission plans are for the next couple of weeks and the kickoff to June. Do you want to take this, Graham, or shall I?
I can take this as well. And we're moving fast, Bryce. Maybe too fast for a 90-minute call. I feel like we should
keep in mind, we got to repeat some of these announcements, my man. These first timers, the guys who showed up on time, they get the full rundown, but everyone else going to get the condensed version.
Right on. So demand missions have been hitting the board fairly regularly. We're actually very excited with the way that's gone. Willow Creek was my favorite example, because it was quite a ways away from Lethbridge or Calgary, pretty remote, and within an hour or two of it being notified, apparently we have a pilot nearby there, because it was starting to be flown, which was awesome to see, that even in those places we were able to turn that around and get that data collected. So Willow Creek, is it completely done now, Bryce, or just mostly done?
Let me see. If I had it marked fully flown, it was fully flown. Yep.
Okay.
Dallas.
Amazing.
I'll let you get to them, but
Yesterday. But as for sort of mission announcements, pre-launch missions by ourselves, as we mentioned last weekend, as I just mentioned, we are now looking at what the next phase of this business looks like, and we have some exciting things in the pipeline and the roadmap. But we will be taking a 2-week pause from announced and launched missions as we nail down and revamp what capture and activity looks like beyond demand capture, so beyond customer requested capture. Our long-term goal, and it has always been and remains, to be a data layer. So to create an aerial imagery layer that falls below the current best, which is airborne layer. But that we have to evaluate how best to go about that strategically and geographically. So we have checked so many boxes over the last 2 years. We have proven we can capture at a city scale. We have proven we can capture all across North America. We've proven in British Columbia that we can capture an entire province and or state. We've proven that we can recapture. And every time I say we in this sentence, this paragraph, I'm talking about you guys as pilots and us as part of this network and this community. And so we're taking all of that now to our client partners, to our investor partners, and we're figuring out what the best next step is and how collection and community looks in the phases to come. So there won't be any pre-announced, pre-launched sort of what we call supply missions internally that help us build our data archive and help us build up the portfolio from now until the second week of June, at which point we'll be coming back with an adapted regional strategy for how we put these missions out. And that might look a little bit different from the way it does now. I honestly don't have all those answers yet because we're assessing the information that we have, that we've gained from the past sort of, in one way, 2 years of testing, but really the last 4 or 5 months where it's been very much about, sort of these task tests and these recurring imagery tests and things like that you guys have been running and collecting, which is building what it is that the future of Spexi will be. So 2-week hiatus is the big news. Alec called it a spring break. So I know for some of you that will be disappointing, but it will allow us to come into the next phase of this business that we are looking to build with you. Bryce, I'll pass it back to you on that sad note.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate the update. And Uzi here is actually asking a good question that I think will actually kind of relate to this, which is, will Spexi be more busy than last year, or did demand drop? And this is actually kind of the whole two-sided problem that Spexi's been challenged with since its inception, which is we have a supply of incredible contributors of pilots. That's you guys. And it costs tens of thousands, if not more, a month to be building that archive, just producing those missions via Spexi. On the flip side, we have customers like cities or partners like Niantic and Esri, and we're seeing a real uptick in customers. That is, people who pay for the network and then basically pay for you guys to fly those missions. The planned missions are something that need to be a component of this network in some way, shape, or form, probably. But we've probably been over-optimizing on that side, to put it simply, especially as we are seeing, I don't want to overstate anything, but in my opinion, demand is increasing on the customer side, and a lot of the updates have been extremely promising in that regard. And so the challenge on Spexi side is now becoming that we have a lot of paying customers coming up and demanding missions, and at the same time we are trying to basically bespoke create our own supply, and that's creating a tension that's needs to be figured out, to put it simply. I'd say that's probably what the next 2 weeks is about more than anything, is making sure that that vision for the network, building that archive, serving customers, and making sure you guys are adequately rewarded for it. It's never going to be an easy answer. We're not going to have a perfect solution in 2 weeks, but we are going to have a better one than basically this last 2 weeks of uncertainty that I feel you guys have been dealing with. I don't think anyone enjoys having to deal with basically the question of what is next week going to look like. This is not intended to be a full-time job, but at the same time, we want to be as clear and honest with you at all times. And so we're going to strive to do that no matter what. So I hope that provided some clarity on what the challenge is here we're trying to overcome. And really that it is frankly a good position to be in, but just also, to put it simply, an unprecedented one. Nobody's built anything like this before, so we're doing our best to build it in a way that serves everyone playing a part. How to create our own supply.
Yeah, that was good. There's a couple questions there. If we'll stick to RGB for now or move into thermal or other types of capture. For the time being, we'll be sticking with RGB. The market, it's not that the market is saturated or not there. It's getting the data in a consumable format into the hands of enough customers and users and buyers to have them ordering both archive data, which is what we've been collecting, and task data, which is what you see when it comes on the network, sort of ad hoc. And we hit you with it without a plan. So it's as Bryce mentioned, a balance between those two things, and we are reevaluating how we optimize that balance. So we'll be sticking to RGB is the short answer to that. In terms of clear demand missions, Squid's asking, and so we do have a small slate of demand missions to share. Bryce, do you want me to read those off, or do you want to read those off?
Tell you what, let's answer a few more questions, and then we'll go into the demand missions in, let's say, about 4 minutes. Because I see a lot of related questions to what we were just talking about, and I want to clear some of those up. And also, I'm not sure I was 100% clear on some of the points. So first of all, as noted, a pause on planned missions. But also, as noted, demand missions will run as normal. So announced in pilot announcements and added to the network as they come in. Those will always continue to go out, and we've been seeing an uptick, to put it simply. So, just to be 1000% clear, no pre-announced missions for the first 2 weeks of June. New missions will continue to be announced in pilot announcements as they come in. And we're doing this because we need to, frankly, update our system to serve and scale the anticipated demand. We're exploring a variety of new missions, and we're preparing for that next stage of growth. This isn't stopping. This is trying to make sure we don't, frankly, blow our heads off when we send this rocket into the air. Rocket is a weird metaphor, excuse me. I also don't think aeronautics, anyone will enjoy me talking about exploding as we take off. So maybe I will lock it up there. And we can address a few more Q&As here. Uzi, once again, you're asking the questions I want people asking, which is, how can we create our own supply? Very, very good question. Right now, what's been working is paying you guys USDC to build a supply, as it were. The challenge is that that's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every month or quarter or so about. And when that translates back into revenue is a kind of a big open question mark. It's very easy to continue to build an archive. It's much, much harder to tie that to a predictable revenue stream and ensure that contributors are getting rewarded at the same time. But to be clear, I think you're right. I think there should be some way for us to build our own supply. So one of the questions I'm going to be asking on this call is what you guys would actually fly for, if not USDC. And that's not to say we are trying to trick you into doing it, but we want to make sure that whatever we're asking you to do, or whatever you are doing with the app, is worth your while in some way, shape, or form. So we'll talk about what some of those maybe ideas are. I'd also love to let you guys share any of your ideas as they come up. So Uzi's asking to build Spexi GPT. Go for it.
Good. I love it. I love the enthusiasm and the comments. And one of the things that has been in strong conversation lately is getting you guys as pilots access to the data or a subset of the data so that you understand it and you can potentially build with it and or monetize it. So there are lots of conversations happening, and I'm going to tie that into a question from JPSDSW about the launch in Sherman. As Bryce mentioned, the last 2 weeks of launches have been a little bit messy. There was the Sherman ones got shifted and then shifted again, and they ended up in some 200-foot lance unintentionally, and that was just coming down to us trying to work with information as it came in. So like take the learnings and turn them around really quickly to redeploy new types of tests and missions and understand what we were working with. And so the part of the decision to just take a little bit of time, take a little break here ourselves, is to really assess what the data has been telling us, what we know we can do, what we have, what our current customers are asking for because they don't necessarily line up exactly, and what product features need to be prioritized or reprioritized so that we can make these demand missions work for you. Lots of examples of the reservation system not working well given the small area tasking that's been predominantly put on the network by clients. Lots of examples of these quick turnaround deployments hitting the production environment with the wrong pricing on them in the wrong place because we're not optimized for that, because we were optimized for large area capture, which is the long-term vision of the network. But a rung on that ladder is being able to give you guys, and there's mentions of being able to work consistently and being able to optimize. You don't want to try to travel somewhere to then suddenly have the missions not available to you. We've heard the asks that the reservations be updated to be more useful, the potentially an ability to claim a set of missions or claim a job so that it's yours and you say you're going to go do it and you do, be a feature of the network. And so listening to that feedback, learning from what works and what has not, is all part of what we've been doing. And it leads us into this little break where we need to go as a group, like, where are we in the next 3 to 6 months, and what does this network look like to make the community feel valued, continue to derive the value that they deserve from the network and the community, but also give us the capability and you the capability to deliver for what the customers are asking for. Product market fit essentially is our goal of this next cycle.
Absolutely. I want to address some of the questions that came in before the call, and then we will go over demand missions, and we'll address some more questions just a little bit later on in the call, if that's okay with you guys. So first of all, Glenn D, before this call, asked, does this Niantic partnership mean greater concentration on US areas and less emphasis on Canada? Short answer, no. There's no reason Niantic, or rather, there is no reason that it would reduce any of our focus on Canada. Stuff like our work with Esri, again, it's still in support of Canada. And to put it simply, a lot of Canada demand-led business as well. So I wouldn't worry about anything in that regard as much as I can candidly speak on that. Glendy also asks, and I'm going to let you answer this one, Graham, are the flight profiles going to be hybrid only going forward, or does Niantic require the cross-hatch type missions?
Yeah, super good question. And that's a question that's, again, come up recently in internal strategy talks, is how much do we want to customize for individual clients if our goal long-term remains to build a standardized data layer? And Niantic requires the grid missions to build the Gaussian splats that they're building. So we will continue to work with the grid missions. We made a plan with our product team and our operational team to deploy only hybrid and grid missions after May 1st. However, from the perspective of a tasking network, for you guys, sometimes speed is more important than us getting what you might call a complete or whole data set, an ortho or a mapping flight and a pano flight. So for example, in some of the West Texas flights, etc., when you want to optimize for a pilot to be able to capture the necessary data to deliver for a client, you don't want to waste their time flying a flight plan that isn't necessary for that. And that became clear very quickly. So you can imagine there's these tensions within the different operating groups of our company and including the pilots of our community of you want to deliver quickly, you want to be able to complete the missions in the time frame that has been assigned to them so that you can unlock additional rewards or bonuses, etc. And we want to deliver the right product to the client while our product team also wants to build a data layer. And so you have these competing desires, and it's a matter of balancing those out and discovering what is the best path to sort of try to please everybody when we know we can't always please everybody.
Absolutely. Well said. Duncan Smith asks the most pertinent question we got. Is there a lot of standing water in Winnipeg to account for those mosquitoes? Yes. It's like 80% wetlands and like flat rivers. I got real curious when I encountered all those things. Okay, we still got a bunch more questions. We're not ignoring them, but I do want to get to demand-led missions before the half hour. So we're going to do that right now. Do you want me to walk us through these, Graham, or did you want the honor?
You could go ahead.
Hell yeah.
I'll answer some questions in the chat.
All right. So first of all, Seattle, Washington, still got some missions there. 12, 14 USDC each. as well as a $24 campaign completion incentive. I've linked those up in the chat. Likewise, we got a fresh one in Regina, Saskatchewan today. It's 49 missions, 1050 USDC as usual in Canada, and I have linked those in the chat. I think we've already got a pilot out there doing that. On the complete opposite side of North America, in Dallas, Texas, we have 12 missions at 14 USDC each, as well as a $24 campaign bonus once it's completed. To note, there are only 2 missions left there when I checked 45 minutes ago. And to be perfectly honest, I think a couple of them might have been uploading. So double check that those haven't been flown before you make any plans. And that warning holds for Toronto, Ontario as well. 21 missions were posted there at the usual Canada rate. There's a 31.5 USDC completion incentive bonus and potentially 1 mission remaining. Please double check. It was surrounded by a couple missions that had mission uploading, so very possible the pilot has flown it since I have been talking. On the other side of demand missions, we had a few more this week that are worth calling out. Miami, Florida had 12 missions, Denver, Colorado had 12 missions, and Willow Creek, number 26, beautiful name, had 54 missions. All of them were flown in less than 48 hours. It was pretty incredible to see. But on the note of what is upcoming, so as mentioned, we are not announcing any planned missions for the next 2 weeks. However, we do have the lead on some upcoming demand missions. You guys are attending the community call, so you're going to know first. Calgary is going to have some more missions coming up soon, and Vancouver, BC is anticipating some missions in June from the demand side. So if you are in Calgary or Vancouver, please keep an eye on pilot announcements. We will post those when they go live. Keep in mind, that is not really public information yet. We try to keep it to the call. All right, Graham, we are approaching our first half hour. How are you doing on this very special edition of the weekly community call?
I'm doing well, and I can hang out for a little while longer, so I won't be dropping off right at 3. I have one great question from Lone Star about how many pilots we've onboarded over the past 90 days, and why would we be actively seeking new pilots? And we are not. We have not been actively advertising. If you were seeing tons of our Facebook ads through late last year and early this year, those were turned off entirely. And our goal right now has not been right now, and for the past several months has not been to extensively grow the pilot network. It has been shifting towards the demand side. So those dollars moved over to the demand side and our go-to-market strategy. So we haven't gated the community per se. We haven't stopped pilots. So if you refer a friend or if someone hears about us, they are still able to sign up and join. But I can tell you that network contributors, which is measured differently from signups, so people who have flown a mission, which would include a request to gone or anything like that, have more or less been flat for a very, very small uptick over the past 2 months at least. So definitely from a business strategy standpoint, our focus is on increasing the amount of demand and not on increasing the community of pilots. That was a 2025 focus for several quarters.
Absolutely.
The two-sided marketplace is a balancing act all the time. Every week, every month, you're trying to balance both those things.
It's actually a really good example of one of these little microcosms of conflicting tensions where a little experiment we just put out, glad I have the time to go into this, is 35 pilots who were really interested in flying with us, but never actually flew a mission, did all the previous steps. We're testing a little, primarily RP only, but with one paid mission and a bunch of RP ones with them. We're experimenting with other ways to get new pilots started with RP and to get them onboarded and to do so in a way that's cost effective. As noted, we are not actively seeking them out, but as part of the, to put it simply, an expression of feedback you guys have had, i.e. RP can be challenging. As a new pilot, these things can be challenging. We are constantly trying to experiment and iterate and serve those parts of the audiences, even if they aren't a big focus right now, as it were. Like, we're not actively spending money on new pilots, but at the same time, we do want to make sure we serve them as best we can, at least in the interim, before they can fly. Graham, before we breach the half hour, I did want to ask if there was anything else around to put it simply, you gave me a great presentation on the network the other day, and I think you gave a great version of it at the top of this call. But is there anything else around where this network started, where we're currently at, and where we need to go that you wanted to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I love to go back and recall, Bryce, you'll remember at our, when we all got together as a company at Christmas, and I talked about the initial, well, it was Cochrane, Alberta, and then it was the Surrey Alpha and the Kelowna Alpha, and there's some people on the call that I see and recognize from those initial collections. We had no idea if it was even possible to use micro drones to image an entire city. And, that was multi-pano, there was no mapping flights at that time, et cetera. And so the distance we've come from there, doing all of British Columbia and then expanding across multiple Canadian cities and into the US and now across, I think we're at 46 states of 50. So very close to the entire continental US and North America is huge. It's learning at every step, and it's us shifting and adapting how we continue to reach this North Star that is a data layer that is accessible like satellite imagery, except made by drones at an incredibly higher resolution and higher concentration of pixels, and also taskable. And it's interesting the tension between those two things that we have found as we've built, because in a sense, we have this vision of this data layer that I know many of you see and understand and see the value of. And when you build to optimize for a large scale data layer, things like the reservation system make sense when you're capturing 10,000 spexicons or 6,000 spexicons, because 25 is a drop in the bucket. A pilot can sort of plan their day or half their day, and it doesn't cause a lot of friction. But when you start to reduce, as essentially Eric has pointed out, when the captures are so small, that 25 suddenly, is very meaningful and can block out pilots and can create friction amongst pilots and within the community. And when you're trying to task 5, 50, 30 zones to cover an AOI for a single client, a lot of what we originally built and designed for isn't optimized for that tool. And while one is a step function of the other, optimizing product features and pilot features for each can be different. And so again, things that we didn't necessarily know off the hop, and we learn as we go along. So we're always appreciative of the feedback. I get pilots that message me things and say, "Hey, sorry, I don't want to bother you." And I'm like, the opposite. Like, if something's not working properly for the pilot community, that's what this Discord is for. That's what these opportunities are for, is to say, hey, we here as a new pilot, it's frustrating when I have one reservation from my Requestagon, and then, experienced pilots gobble everything up because the launch is so small. Obviously, it would be financially irresponsible and unfeasible to try to cover the whole globe or even all of North America all at one time and pay for everything when we don't have buyers for all of that data. But proving out that model was a big part of our early thesis and our early operations. Can it even be done? And so that part of our model has been proven out, and that's one of these boxes I say we've checked. Like, we're like, wow, we've been able to do this, we've achieved this, you and us as a community. And now it's like, okay, how do we put this? How do we package this data? How do we get it out of the door through distribution partners like Niantic, like Esri? How do we put it into the hands of the geospatial data users so that consumption level goes up and everybody gets to stay as busy as they are? I mean, venture-backed tech it is what it is. It's creating a hypothesis, having a hypothesis, and working towards it. And every step is a part of that. So that's my history of the network. It's been exciting. It's been frustrating. It's been hair graying a little bit at times, but it's been a lot of fun. And I appreciate all the conversations that happen every day with many of you through different mediums.
Absolutely, Graham. My hair is. I was going to say my gray is. Well, anyways, I think that kind of just tells you what I was trying to say about how this job has maybe aged me ever so slightly. But it's been worth it. All right, guys, we are now approaching my most exciting part of this. So, as noted, new XP rewards are coming to an end, which gives us a fantastic inflection point to go over basically the leaderboards over the past year. We founded LayerDrone roughly a year ago, just a little bit longer, 13 months. So we have a really interesting snapshot of the community. I'm going to start on the pilot side, then we'll go over to the community. But there are a lot of interesting details here and milestones I want to share with you all. And you know what? I am going to kick us off by telling you guys who our top 10 pilots are from the past week. So, in first place, Implicit Donkey. In second place, Jealous Mouse. In third, Electrical Hookworm. In fourth, Special Dog. All dogs are special dogs. In fifth, Vivacious Swift. In sixth, Uptight Eel. In seventh, Voluminous Salmon. In eighth, Liberal Clownfish. In ninth, Immediate Heron. And in 10th, Golden Marmot. Congratulations to our top 10 from the past week. I am going to share those in the chat right now, as soon as I get rid of all the data at the end that you guys probably don't care about. And those will be coming down in 5, 4, 3. Oh, this is a great recording, I'm sure. 2, 1, 0. There they are. Thank you guys so much for your work over the past week. Here comes the next month. Very similar. So in first, Implicit Donkey. In second, Jealous Mouse. In third, Electrical Hookworm. In fourth, Special Dog. In fifth, Vivacious Swift. In sixth, Uptight Eel. In seventh, Voluminous Salmon. In eighth, Liberal Clownfish. Oh my god, this is an identical list. An incredible month, guys. I might need to just double check that I'm using the right list there. But this takes me to since mainnet. And I am going to pull that up fresh real quick. All right.
This is a leaderboard since we launched mainnet, which is March 17th. Is that correct, of this year?
That is correct. Unfortunately, I'm looking at it. Is it again? Okay, it is slightly different this time. Thank God. I was just so worried that I had copy and pasted the same list 3 times. Although it does seem quite similar. Here it comes. Sorry, guys. A lot of very challenging names to work with on occasion. All right, so since mainnet, first place, Implicit Donkey. Second place, Electrical Hookworm. Third place, Jealous Mouse. Thank God they're in a different order now. Fourth place, Indirect Parrotfish. Fifth place, Uptight Eel. Sixth place, Vivacious Swift. Seventh place, Anonymous Toucan. Eighth place, Wet Galliform. Ninth place, Systemic Quokka. And 10th place, Unusual Silverfish. That is all of our flights since mainnet, or rather our top 10 pilots since mainnet.
Last 2.5 months? Yeah, 2.5 months.
Yeah, about 70 days, if you want to be specific. So congratulations to these top 10 pilots. But this brings me to something pretty remarkable, which is our top 10 pilots overall. Now, you're going to be familiar with some of these names at this point, but should I dive into this or should I save it for after? I'll dive into this. All right, so once again, first place, Jealous Mouse. Second place, Implicit Donkey. Third place, Vivacious Swift. Fourth place, Indirect Parrotfish. Fifth place, Devoted Tiger. Sixth place, Uptight Eel. Seventh place, Heavy Snipe. Eighth place, Influential Lizard. Ninth place, Rear Mockingbird. And 10th place, Ordinary Cat Shark. These are our top 10 pilots on the network as ranked by reputation points. And so that is over the entire lifetime of the network.
Bravo to some of those. And Uzi's worried he's not on a leaderboard, but as the missions grow and the network grows, I am sure that these leaderboards will continue to adapt and change. But amazing work to those thank you to those pilots who have put that amount of work into delivering data to this network.
Absolutely. And we got a couple milestones in there to celebrate, but we will get to those just a moment. For now, I want to talk about the community leaderboards. So, as noted, up to this point, XP has been our primary measure of community contributions to the network. I saw somebody in the chat ask why they can't see their XP in the Spexi app. Just to be 1000% clear on that, XP was a new point system introduced about a year ago with the inception of LayerDrone. The basic premise: can we reward people for contributing to the community in a way that doesn't involve flying a drone? You know, you don't have missions in your area, but you're helpful in the Discord. Is there some way to reward you for that? That was the basic premise. Spent a lot of time with it, put some effort in, and saw some pretty interesting results come out of it. But it's completely different from this, or rather, it's completely separated from the Spexi app. So if you've been earning XP, you have your Discord and a wallet connected to Zeely. And that basically tracks your XP. If you haven't been earning XP, don't worry about it at this point. It's just a way to basically provide a tractable measure of some of the work people have been doing. And I actually have some really interesting insights now that we have a whole lifetime of XP data to take a look at if anyone's curious. You don't have a choice in the matter. I've got you on the call. All right. So our top XP contributors are coming down in the chat now. Oh, I gotta tag y'all. Sorry, unlike pilot names, this requires a couple more steps. All right, so in first place, we have Yogal. In second place, as per usual, Daijobe. Third, Locust. Fourth, Mariah. Fifth, Rulesworks. Sixth, Uzi. Seventh, General Zero, and then a few more numbers. In eighth, Umoren, or Black 99. In ninth, Joe Baido. And then in 10th, Favoric.
So, question there about XP to dollar conversion or anything like that. There is no direct conversion between XP and dollars. Tomorrow, or today's your last chance to earn. Tomorrow we'll be taking a snapshot of all the XP and storing that for future token for future use and reference for community contributors. But we don't want to continue that until we have a clear version or a clear path towards what it's going to look like.
Yeah, all it took was a trip to Japan, and I finally regained my Japanese accent. All right, that brings us to the top XP earners over the past month. So, in first place, and this is going to become the story of XP, Daijobe. Had to learn his name before this, I'm going to be saying it a lot. In second place, Duncan Smith. In third, Cowboy. In fourth, Joe Baidu, excuse me. In fifth, Unusual Silverfish. In seventh, Dynamic Dolphin. In eighth, CNP Chris. In ninth, Olympic Leopard. And in 10th position, Vivacious Swift, or Caleb as he's better known as. Thank you guys for your work over the past month. And this, I could read you guys the past year, but I'm going to read you the all-time. There's a little bit of difference there, and I find it interesting. You're not going to. So, this is the big one.
Last list you get to read to us, though, Bryce. And then we're going.
This is the big one, and this is actually where I think, for whatever else we can say, I think the XP system did its job. So, at the end of this call, I'm going to be distributing the last of XP rewards. It's probably not going to shift the balance of power in all-time XP, but if you are connected, you might get a few more. But what is really interesting here, you know what, I'm going to read it out, and I'll tell you what's interesting. So, in first place, can you give me a little drum roll, Graham?
I don't know if you can hear it. My noise cancellation might take it away, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, you sound terrible. That's perfect. Thank you. So, in first place, you guessed it, Daijobe. And I'm going to tell you why that is so interesting in just a little bit. In second place, he hasn't been in the Discord as of late, but I've been chatting with him every now and then. It's Mapster. In third, Gitmoon. In fourth, Sheeb10086. In fifth, Hulkavenik. In sixth, Lucid. In seventh, Lakati. In eighth, Kill Spider. That's what you do with them. In ninth, Bar Wezra, and then smash their keyboard. And then in 10th, Laoyo. Okay, so sorry about the pronunciation on some of those Discord names, but in my defense, take a look at them. They are tricky. Let me tell you some stuff about the XP program we've done over the past 13 months. This officially started April 22nd. Within a month, we had over 8,000 people on it. and they had earned over 360,000 XP. Now, that's really cool, but it did also highlight how many of those people weren't necessarily... Yeah, actually, to put it simply, how many of those people were speculators? A lot of people read the tea leaves of the XP program and saw that there was probably a token or something along those lines coming up, and so they participated in the hopes of it turning into something. Now, CNP Chris is asking a good question in the chat. How many of those are pilots? And that's where I think the all-time XP does get genuinely interesting. Because it stands to reason that first month, a lot of those speculators, the people who were doing the Zealy quests as much as possible, were our all-time XP leaders at that point. And now, to be fair, we were asking them to do those things, they were doing them, that's great. But the goal was to have people do things that served this community, and to be recognized and rewarded for that. And the point of the XP system is to track those contributions. So, what I'm building up to is there has been a 5.6 times increase in the number of users since 13 months ago, or since 12 months ago. That wouldn't make any sense. Total XP has expanded to over 173 million. And nearly the entire registered base here came before mainnet. But what I think is really interesting is that Daijobe, over the past 6 months in particular, has really risen from just being on the board to being in the top 10 to being the leader. And not to share a little bit of data on you, but Daijobe has only done 20 quests on Zealy. All his other XP is from these regular weekly community campaigns or just being helpful on the Discord and receiving 25 XP via a mod or an admin saluting them. For comparison, Mapster in second place earned the majority of their XP via 407 quests. That put them in the first place within the first few months, and they held that position until Daijobe basically crawled past them and kept going. And they did it just by showing up in the Discord every day and being helpful. And then in third place, to just illustrate this further, Gitmoon completed 582 quests. Now, again, I'm not trying to say that Gitmoon or Mapster didn't contribute to the community. There's a reason I'm still DMing with Mapster. He's a treasured part of this community, whether or not he's posting regularly or not. But to just show how over time the XP program shifted in design to be as, frankly, Discord and pilot-centric as possible. The point of serving the community is simply serving you in some way, shape, or form. The only exception to that would be trying to broadcast LayerDrone messages as far as wide as possible. So, as time went on, we saw pilots in the top 10 more, and that was the goal. I'm really happy to see that. It's been, to put it honestly, like challenging. I'm not a fan of Zealy as a platform. I'm a fan of a lot of what we've been able to do with it. And I realize how challenging it's been for some folks to so much as set up their wallet, and it's not you, it is the platform. Like, you do need to use a browser sometimes, you do need to XYZ, it's annoying. But the platform's annoying, you guys are fantastic, and I'm so impressed with how this program ultimately went, considering how curmudgeonly I can be about it. So, on that note, in just a few more minutes, we're going to have another Q&A portion, but I want to basically call out effectively, the top 50 pilots on the network with their milestones. We're going to start with the biggest cohort of people. Now, I'm not going to read all these names out, because that's awful.
Jump into that, Bryce. Can I dive in for 1 second, because I do have to drop off now fairly soon.
Perfect timing, Graham. Go right ahead.
The entire 90 minutes, but I want to echo your sentiment in how helpful the XP was in bringing the pilots into the building a community. I see from the chat that Daijibu is either a legend or an AI agent, one of the two. Don't know which. I happen to know and have met him, but I'm not going to spill the beans. But we might have to get him up here one day if he's so inclined to share what he loves about the network and Spexi and flying drones. But I will call this my sign-off time, as I do have to run out of the house and attend to family matters. But Bryce, continue. Those of you who are into some, I believe there's some trivia, I believe there's some games coming up, I believe there might be an Ask a Pilot question. So lots to hear still on the call, and enjoy. Thank you for running this longer call today, Bryce.
Absolutely, and if Nav or Matt want to be upgraded to co-host at any point, just speak up, as this next portion of the call is going to have me jumping between channels in order to pull you guys. But otherwise, just keep at it.
Awesome. Thank you all. I will dip here. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Graham. Chat, remember to say thanks, Graham. You don't have to. He gets it. All right, folks. So, before I was so rudely cut off by the man who's been managing operations here for years at a time, let me recognize 33 pilots who have now flown over 1,000 flights for the network. I'm going to drop these names over in the chat real quick. I will drop them in a public-facing thread shortly. But just to be clear, the following pilots have now flown over 1,000 flights on the network. So you will see 33 pilot names there, and that is a truly remarkable achievement. I was originally going to celebrate a few folks who have flown numbers smaller than that, but it was becoming untenable. However, this is actually bringing me back to the list I can read, which is the 10 pilots who have now flown over 2,500 flights. So, just to be clear, these 10 pilots have now flown over 2,500 missions for the network. And that is Heavy Snipe, Rear Mockingbird, Brave Fly, Influential Lizard, Essential Earwig, Colossal Stingray, Ordinary Cat Shark, Abstract Pike, Zany Krill, and Injured Crocodile. That is truly incredible. Also incredible, and actually, here's my first bit of network trivia. How many pilots do you guys think have flown over 5,000 flights for the network? And we're going to say overall. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to try and share your answer there. Imagine there's some Jeopardy-style music playing. I would do it myself, but I don't want this recording to get a DMCA takedown. All right, Soup's Inappropriate Wildebeest has it. There are 6 pilots who have exceeded that milestone. Here are the 4 pilots who have currently flown between 5,000 and 10,000 flights. And that's Vivacious Swift, Indirect Parrotfish, Devoted Tiger, and Uptight Eel. That is a truly incredible achievement, and there's only one on this network I can think of that is more incredible, and that is flying over 10,000 flights. So one thing I want to quickly call out is you guys should keep an eye on Vivacious Swift, as they are a few hundred flights away from joining the 10,000 flight club. However, they're going to be in good company. We've already celebrated the person who first broke 10,000 flights. So here's your next bit of network trivia. Who was the pilot who first broke the 10,000 flight milestone barrier? Answer me that. Give you a little bit of extra XP. In the intro, I will prepare to let you guys know who our top 10 are. All right, everyone knows it's Jealous Mouse. All right, everyone had the right answer. You guys all get XP. Good work, good work, good work. You were close. Actually, you know what, KPV? You had the right answer and you didn't even note it. So, everyone, I would like you to welcome Implicit Donkey to the 10K Mission Club. They are joining Jealous Mouse past the milestone. Yeah, KPV, you got the news early. Way to go. And they have now exceeded 10,000 flights on the network. Only 2 pilots have done this. And it's worth mentioning, both of them have done it in the past few months. We are really reaching an unprecedented place here. Not always the most well-loved pilots in the chat, though. So I will leave those opinions there. Remember to be respectful. Don't feel like you can't share your opinion, though. So just want to thank you guys. Sorry, some of your comments are funny, but keep them respectful. Keep them respectful. Thank you guys so much for your flights, your time, your contributions, and your role in building this network. I'm just going to go over a few more questions I see coming in here. First up, Uzi, is Windsor still happening? So, as per, and this is a good opportunity to reiterate, for the next 2 weeks, we are pausing any planned missions. That means that anything that was either announced at these times or was potentially delayed it is not launching over the next 2 weeks, whether this is Windsor, whether this is Texas. We do not have any planned supply-led missions launching in the next 2 weeks, which is disappointing to hear, I know. However, we will be posting demand-led missions as they come in over in pilot announcements as per usual. We've been having a lot of these come in every week. I know it's not quite at the rate a lot of you guys are after, but just to be absolutely clear on what we're doing here, we're taking the next 2 weeks to basically reassess the process around supply-led missions as we face some pretty unprecedented growth. So that is the answer there. Lone Droner asks, do we still not have a plan for RP? Beyond reservations, it doesn't seem to do much, and I have oodles of them. Good question. So XP, the reward system where new XP is not being rewarded anymore moving forward, has been for community contributions. LayerDrone uses these to track contributions to the LayerDrone community. On the other side is RP, which LayerDrone uses to track pilot contributions to the network. So in the case of a token, or in the simple case of tracking contributions to the network, these are some of the metrics we would anticipate LayerDrone using. As far as a plan for RP, it will, for the foreseeable future, be a part of the network. It is always being reconsidered in terms of its value and what it can best do. And whatever the future of the network holds, I will say, in the short to medium term, it's meaningful. I would hold on to it and keep it. Don't treat it as worthless. But yes, in the short term, its only immediate utility is reservations. But in the long term, it is what LayerDrone uses to measure your contributions to the network as a pilot, and treat it as a value of that as such. Glenn D asks, can you have these RP missions that will pay later, pay the pilots if the imagery is sold? Technically possible, but incredibly difficult to functionally pull off. And also, to be perfectly honest, at least in the short to medium term, a lot of these supply-led missions don't really turn into immediate client value. And what makes them valuable, if they are, is their scale. So to put this simply, you guys are seeing some of the demand-led missions, and some of them are 12 missions or 50 missions. And a lot of what would make supply-led missions valuable is if they were generally, I'm speaking in generalities here, at a much higher scale. So if you flew, let's say, 5 missions, but a client is accessing, let's say, 100,000 spexigons of data, making sure that that value trickles down to you is tricky. But to your question, and I think to your point, that is a good consideration. And actually, maybe one of the first things I will use as a... soup's inappropriate. Good question. I'll answer that in a moment. But yeah, that's actually something I'm going to poll you guys on, is what you would do with RP moving forward, because it's not working as perfectly as it should. I've seen the complaints and I've seen the concerns around, simply put, new pilots kind of getting boxed out by people more experienced. Soup's inappropriate wildebeest in the chat just asked, what is the difference of LayerDrone and Spexi? Been meaning to ask for a while. An extremely good question, and an annoying one, I know. To put it simply, about 14 months ago, the LayerDrone Foundation was created to steward the network as a nonprofit. Up to that point, Spexi had been managing both the supply, that is to say pilots contributing to the network, and demand, that is to say customers accessing the network. With LayerDrone, the basic conceit is you have an organization that stewards the network and its value on behalf of its contributors like you, as well as the platform as a whole. So in its simplest of simplest, Spexi is how people access the network. LayerDrone is the network. Spexi is powered by LayerDrone. Niantic is partnering with Spexi, and they're using LayerDrone data. To be perfectly honest, LayerDrone is like plumbing. I feel it's important for you guys to know what it is, just from basically it being the LayerDrone community. But it's sort of like explaining to someone, where... I'm losing my thread with that metaphor. I'm going to pin it there. Okay, so good question. Let me see what else we've got coming up here. Jason brings up that Google Earth maps are typically updated 1 to 3 years for urban areas, while remote regions go as long as 5 years without an update. Do you have plans to update your map archives? Yes, and this is actually something that's really driven by demand-led signals, but also a really good example of the tension that the supply-led missions need to navigate. Which is, to put it simply, we would love to have all of the US mapped in the foreseeable future, and would love to invest in that. But what would make that data set more valuable to a vast majority of people is not just the complete, continental USA mapped, but the complete continental USA mapped over 3 to 4 months repeatedly, or the very specific timeframes. And this is a cart before the horse thing. It needs to be built up in pieces until those pieces become the whole network. So this is a kind of a rambling answer, and I apologize, but it is a long-winded way of saying that one of the core differences of the network is how it can not only be updated much, much faster than 1 to 3 years, but also on demand. If a demand-led customer needs all of Ontario mapped and they need it mapped tomorrow, they can functionally get that happening on the network. And if they need that mapped every few months, and actually, to give you a further hint on some upcoming demand missions, that's something that we're kind of looking at with the city of Calgary, is recurring missions with them in very piecemeal parts. It's a little weird, but it's also a perfect example of how certain areas are very valuable to certain clients over certain periods of time, but mapping the whole city of Calgary for that would be an outrageous, that's what you use the satellite for. Excuse me, questions are coming in faster than I can answer them. Do you have launches already planned on June 15th? When will these launches be announced? So we wanted to basically provide, this is going to sound funny. We are telling you that there are no new missions for the next 2 weeks, so that we are basically being as honest with you about the outlook for the next 2 weeks. We are not going to just stop talking to you during that time. We will provide updates to how the supply-led strategy is going to look, and these community calls will be the first place you will get the pulse on that. What you can probably anticipate in about 2 weeks is potentially new mission types, or a new approach to how planned missions arrive on the network. I've only been with the team and the network for about 1.5 years at this point, and over that time we've experimented with a lot of these things. We've had pilots vote on where we launch. We have had open capture campaigns where we just posted RP-only missions. And we've done larger scale and smaller scale, from like $100,000 a month to $10,000 a month of supply-led missions that Spexi is basically independently funding without necessarily a customer at the end. And this needs to be figured out as a business. It needs to be profitable. And so that is, again, I'm sorry, it's my word of the day, but that is the tension that Spexi is navigating, that the network is navigating, and making sure that you guys are valued appropriately, that we're navigating. Okay. McShaky has some good advice. Never build your life around a new company that doesn't guarantee a job or pay. That is good advice. I say that not trying to be dismissive. We value you guys. We do appreciate your contributions. And some people can earn some pretty impressive money on this network, but we do not want you to be misled. We are not providing a full-time job. We are providing something new. And as we keep saying, a lot of this is stuff we are figuring out. We are not trying to mislead you or take advantage of you in any way, but at the same time, we're just trying to be as honest as possible about what's coming and what isn't. Okay, so in this data layer, Glenn D asks at 3, in this data layer, there will be edges where the dragons live that would never be imaged outside of population centers. Definitely not. I will say that rural areas are probably one of the trickier things to figure out on this network. Rural areas and, let's say, remote. So when Hawaii was having their flooding a few months back, that was actually a perfect example of the 1-2 challenge of having a lower pilot population. Hawaii has a lot of islands, and we wanted to map a few specific ones of those. And we had some pilots who might have been able to travel and not, but at the same time, Hawaii was dealing with the challenges of flooding, which made traveling difficult. So this is just to say that is a challenge, the edges of the map, as it were. But it is yet another one we're trying to figure out. And something I think that is proving very interesting here, and this is honestly just a little bit of commentary for you guys more than anything, is that these completion incentive bonuses, I think, provide a really good example of ways to fly and contribute that value your time and provide the correct incentives, but also put them more one-to-one. So you're never Uber surge pricing, as Uzi says. The demand and the supply are meeting in some way, shape, or form. It's all bespoke right now is the main challenge. Like, we have Graham and Nav figuring things out as they come in. And we want to make this scalable. We want to make this repeatable, and we want to make this as easy for you guys as clicking a button. And it's not quite any of those things completely yet, but it is what we are striving for. All right, so those were the questions I actually had on record. I appreciate you guys have more than a few, and more than a few that I haven't gotten to. But I wanted to do something a little bit different in this last part of the call. To put it simply, I wanted you guys to answer some of my questions. So what I'm going to do is I am going to drop some polls over in the general chat. And what I want you guys to do, if you feel so inclined, is answer them. What I am looking to do is basically get your pulse on some of the challenges that we've actually been discussing with. First question is going to be pretty simple. How long have you been flying with us? I'm just trying to get a breakdown on who actually attends these calls and answers these things. But I also want to know things like, I'm going to turn around some of these questions on you. I want to know what changes you would make to the reservation system. I want to know what your feelings are on a potential token. Would you even want one at this point? I want to know what would motivate you to fly more and things of that effect. So I'm going to drop the first poll now. And if you just check out general chat, you will see that. I will otherwise provide a copy of it in the chat, or a link to it right now. So this is the first poll. How long have you been flying with Spexi? The next thing I want to ask you guys, and feel free to provide any color on your answers in the chat. I am having to jump between channels just as I post this stuff. But I would be very interested in any long form answers you might have. So drop them in the chat if you got them. But if not, no problem. Thank you so much for your answer. All right, here comes the next poll. How would you change the reservation system? I'm going to give a few leading answers here. First of all, get rid of it. Second of all, more penalties for bad actors. Third of all, no changes needed. I doubt many of you are going to say that, but other, it's the answer. Real quick, before I post this one, I'd be curious, does anyone have any more suggestions in terms of an answer here? And it's fine if you don't. All right, I'm going to post this one now then. And this one's going to have 4 hours on it. And I will link that in the chat right now. Okay, so we've got two polls just over in general chat right now. The first is asking you how long you've been flying with Spexi on the LayerDrone network. The second is how would you change the reservation system? If you... Sorry, I started reading the chat, and I can't multitask for the life of me. So I'm just going to go straight to the third question. I'm seeing some stuff pop off in chat, and I will do my best to answer it just as soon as I come back. All right, here we go. Third question, what are your feelings on a potential LayerDrone token? So, want to be clear here, provide some historical context. It was announced that LayerDrone was exploring a token. Reactions have been pretty varied, and it still has yet to actually launch. What we have done is move to USDC. Prior to USDC, pilots were paid every 2 weeks via Stripe. I don't know if... I would actually be curious how you guys are feeling about USDC overall, and maybe I'll add that one real quick too. But to put it simply, the token hasn't launched yet. The LayerDrone Foundation has not made any substantial news or updates since then, or since announcing the original intention. So I would be curious, as contributors, whether you guys see any value there or whatever. I'm literally interested in what you think. So that has been shared over in general chat. And once again, you're going to have a link coming at you over in the chat. And yeah, for context, I think the original thinking way back when was that pilots would be rewarded in the form of a token for their contributions, and customers would use a token to access the network. And it makes an intuitive amount of sense, particularly when we talk about ways to value your contributions to the network. The challenge really is, unlike something like, say, stocks or an IPO that come with all these protections that prevent bad actors from making the price do things it maybe shouldn't do, tokens are a big old Wild West still, even though there are a lot more regulations. And to put it even further, crypto tokens, as they're colloquially known, particularly within our realm, have not a lot of precedent of actually working, at least in the terms that we care about, which is working as a business, working for you guys, and not just like plummeting to zero or getting exploited or any of these things. Now, there are other ways to think about tokens. For example, you guys keep talking about AI, your usage on AI machines like Claude and things of that, AI machines, what am I, my grandfather? But your usage there is limited by tokens. If you've ever run into, you've used too much Claude for today, or you need a special account to do more, that is you basically burning all your tokens for that. And that is functionally how we saw it working for customers on the network. They would basically pay for tokens, and pilots would get those once they did stuff. Was the very broad example, I'd say, from the original white paper. That has been Bryce's token context minute. This brings us to my next poll, which is what would motivate you to fly for Spexi more? And sorry guys, these polls take a minute to create. I want to know what would make you do it. I polled the community before, and so I'm leading my answers with with what you guys said in those polls. More missions in my area, if my flights earned me a percentage of a weekly prize pool. I think people have been talking around some version of that idea that I think is really promising. Like Uzi, I think it was you who brought up the idea of, can I get rewarded every time my Spexi gun is accessed by a customer? It makes a fair amount of sense. It comes with overhead, though. That might, or rather complexity, not overhead. Well, those are the same thing. Anyways, maybe you'll only fly for USDC. Maybe you have a clever consideration or thought we haven't put out there. Regardless, I want to know. So I have dropped the poll over in general chat. It is once again being linked, and there we go. What do you guys think? Would it be useful to ask you around USDC? Let me know. In the interim, what I am going to do, feel free to answer the polls if you haven't yet. But let's take a minute, guys. Let us just real quickly award some XP for folks who are going to answer some trivia questions. If you guys are sharing any of your answers in chat, feel free to keep doing so, or you can drop them in each of the polls threads. As they should all have one in a moment. And while you do that, I'm going to ask you some drone trivia. So these have been some facts about drones that I have shared on community calls or are otherwise Googleable if people can't think of them quickly. But, be a sport. Don't Google them right away. Or don't Google them at all. But I'm not a cop. I can't make you not do that. So what I want to know, first of all, what country launched the first military drone? We don't talk about military applications very often for a variety of reasons, but I do love this little fun fact about drones. All right, let's see. What do folks got? All right. We've got Ukraine as a guess, Germany, Austria, KPV crushing it. KPV got it with Austria. All right, follow-up question. What year was it? And we're going to take not quite Price is Right rules, whoever's closest. Damn, KPV, 1849 got it in one. I'm going to give Daijobe a follow-up salute for getting in right under the wire. And second last question related to this. Who were they attacking? Who was Austria attacking in 1849 using the first military drone application? All right, KPV, you pay attention in class. You too, Random Manatee. And you know what, KPV, you don't get to answer this one. But, question, how did it go? And while you think of the answer, I will tell you what happened. So in 1849, Austria basically decided to bomb Venice using what can only be described as balloons. And to put it simply, they did it from the land, they did it from the sea, and when they did it from the sea, the wind changed, and there were about 2 recorded well, I shouldn't give hard numbers, especially if KBV's in the chat. It sounds like you might know more about this than me. But my understanding was that technically Austria probably bombed Austria more than they bombed Venice when the winds changed. So pour one out for innovators. A lot has changed since then. Actually, though, speaking of the first military application of drone hardware, actually, did anyone get that answer right? I'm sorry, you guys. Oh, CMP Chris says first military drones were way before then. Chris, I'd love to know what you mean by that. I've been leaning on the story a lot, so if I've got to correct myself, well, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'd love to learn. So let me know, and maybe I'll give you a little XP for correcting me. In the interim, can anyone tell me when the first hobbyist remote-controlled aircraft was built? So again, that is the first, and we've got some qualifiers on here, hobbyist and remote-controlled aircraft. All right, Uzi guessed 1991, Random Manatee 1967, CMP Chris 1915, KPV 1930, Joe Baidu 1955. Guys are getting close. All right. I hate to do it. He keeps doing it, but KPV was closest. 1935. 1935. Anyone want to guess the country of origin? Where was this hobbyist based when they built the first? Yep, Random Manatee got it in one. USA. USA. All right. So, last question. And I don't think you guys are going to know their name. What? Who were they? If you can get their name, great. I don't expect you to. I'm going to know you Googled it. But maybe if you can tell me their profession. Keep in mind, this was their hobby. So that means they probably weren't... Well, also it was 1935. I was going to say they probably weren't a professional pilot. I'm not sure how many of those existed. You've got brothers, you've got engineer. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I was very surprised when I found out what this person's job was. I don't think you're going to guess it, but I'm going to give you 5 seconds. If you do, I'll be impressed. I'll really respect you. Lawyers, never, Joe. Never. Random Manatee guests mechanic. Excuse me, I alliterated myself there. No, the creator was Reginald Denny. They were an actor. They were an actor who were a big enthusiast in model airplanes, and they figured out how to make them remote controlled. Yeah, cool stuff. All right. I'm liking the trivia. I'm sorry, guys. I really like trivia. I could just keep doing this with you all day. I do want to take a quick look at what you guys have said around the polls I just dropped. As I see they're coming in, it does seem that no one's actually in favor of outright getting rid of the reservation system yet. But the vast majority are in favor of more penalties for bad actors. So I will take a look at some of your nuanced answers there, as some folks left their answers in the chat. As far as how people feel about the LayerDrone token, at least a couple of you are hoping it replaces USDC as how we reward you on the network. A few other folks are hoping it replaces RP as the point system we use. Somebody is hoping it's weird. And about 5 of you are just not interested. Now, as opposed to that, what would motivate you to fly with Spexi more? As anticipated, and roughly matching my recent poll to pilots who haven't flown yet, more missions in my area or where I'm planning to go. That does seem to be the common reaction. At least one of you would be motivated if flights earned you a percentage of a weekly prize pool. The idea there being, let's say, if 10,000 RP was awarded in a week, and we had a fund of maybe 1,000 USDC a week, maybe, depending on what percentage of that RP you earned, that would be your pull from that prize pool. That would be my way of sort of solving the supply equation in the short term, or at least considering it. 2 of you would only fly for USDC, and 11% of you have some other answers in chat that I'm going to check out right now. But before that, oh man, the vast majority of you have been with us for over a year. 20% have been with us for 6 to 12 months, 20% 3 to 6 months, and the smallest cohort only the past 3 months, which does probably reflect that we haven't been focusing on finding new pilots as of late. Oh, you don't have permission to post in those polls. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I should have dropped those in content or elsewise. That's my bad. Feel free to drop your answers in general chat itself then. And excuse me for not noticing that. Thank you for tagging me. Have a little XP for your trouble. Use this for controlling the DJI Mini 6 Pro. No FCC approval required. Thank you, Daishobe. Oh, good stuff. All right, guys. We've got 10 minutes left on this call. I see at least a few of you have been on the call for the entire 90 minutes. You are absolute legends and appreciated. I don't know how anyone can stand me talking for the majority of that time at them. But my God, do I appreciate you. Let me just make sure that I've actually done everything I was supposed to do. Ooh, I haven't posted this week's Ask a Pilot. So this is basically going to be a longer version of what I think you guys are already answering with the polls. But I'm basically asking you, what would make you fly? What would make you do it besides, and this is important, cash. I do appreciate cash as an incentive. I think it's the best incentive we have, and I think we should use it whenever we can. But do you have any other thoughts there? Let us know, and you will get 25 XP for your answer. I will also note that I will only be doing rewards on this latest Ask a Pilot question for the next hour. So I will post it shortly, and when I do, you will have an hour to reply if you want XP with your answer. You can answer at any point in the foreseeable future, but you have to do it in the next hour to get XP, and I will double it up for you as well. So, besides USDC missions, what else can this community provide you as a drone pilot? Practical career advice, local meetups. Maybe you want some changes to the community call. Maybe you really are sick of the sound of my voice. Maybe you wish we were on a different platform. I don't know, but I want to know. So let us know. I will drop that in just 2 seconds. What can this community do besides pay you? All right. That is posted in captures and content. Let me just turn it into a thread. And away we go. All right, dropping it over for you guys in general chat right now. Apologies for not having a co-host here rather a co-pilot to keep you guys in the air while I am doing some technical stuff on the side, but I really, really, really appreciate your patience here. Okay, so I'm going to close us out with some more trivia, and while I do that, maybe you guys can drop any outstanding questions that you didn't get answered. If I don't get to them before the end of the call, I will make sure that someone on the team does, and we will share the answer in the general chat in the very near future. So just a few more minutes left. Here's my next question for you guys. Who was the first country to introduce legislation for unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs? What country was the first to introduce this legislation? All right, we got Canada, we got China, we got USA. I love that it worked out that way. But no, not quite. Think Canada, but ruder. Vance is very good to me. Also, I love how many people instinctively just hit that UK button. Dajobe, though, oh my god, he nailed it. So I think it was 2004. Australia was the first country to introduce UAV legislation. I wanted to ask you guys, how many people does the Air Force employ with drones? Unfortunately, I quickly found that I end up on a list if I try to look up that information. So what I want to know is how many people did the Air Force employ in 2012 to review drone footage, keeping in mind that that's 14 years ago, and drones as a whole were a pretty new concept. Yeah, Dajobe, you get it. KPV guessed Ireland when I said rude Canadians, which isn't wrong in a way, but it's not fair to Ireland. All right, guys are getting Duncan Smith is closest with 4,500 as their guess, but you need to get that number higher. Rookie numbers, guys, rookie numbers. This is the American Air Force. They don't half-ass these things. Duncan Smith is the closest with 12,000. Rookie numbers still. Get them up. And to be clear, this is people reviewing drone footage too. KPV is closest with 30,000. Higher. All right, guys, if I don't get the correct answer in range in the next 10 seconds, oh, Duncan Smith getting close, getting real close, Duncan. Duncan is guessing 64,000. All right. Random Manatee and Duncan, I'm going to give it to you guys. The answer is 65 to 70,000, as quoted by the standing general at that time. Modern numbers, as I mentioned, are classified, but you can find this in a Forbes article. Thank you guys for your guesses. Fun fact about me, I've been working in tech most of my life. Funner fact about me, about how I feel about it. But one nice thing I get is I've been on the CES list, the Consumer Electronics Show, for whatever the reason, for 2 decades. And that means that I get to find out what is coming up. See you, Spexi Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on the call. I'm going to tell you about some stuff I saw at CES, and I want to know what you think of it. So, you've seen drone light shows, but Arrivia debuted at the last Consumer Electronics Show, and it has a very unique take on drone light shows. What makes this drone and its light shows so unique? And it's pretty foundational. So this is the Arrivia. It's a drone that debuted at CES 2026, and I'm asking you, what makes this drone's light shows unique? Lasers? They all got lasers, Duncan. They all got lasers. No. It has to do with how this drone floats. Oh, I see several people. Random Manatee makes perfect sense that you'd be the one to get it. That's right. This is a drone that floats in water for the purposes of coordinated drone shows. According to CMP Chris, it's powered by cow forts in a jar. I think that's their guess. But it would be very cool if it was also that. Also, from the latest Consumer Electronics Show, what do you guys think the Hydrohawk does? This is also a drone, to be clear. You should be able to purchase it soon. Soon being relative. Amphibian drone? You're close. You're close. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it does something very specific, let's say. Let's get more specific. Glenn says, makes water fountains. Goes underwater. Close, close. All right. I'm going to say goes underwater and amphibian drone are close enough. So, water monitoring. And to be clear, extremely extensive water monitoring. Extremely exciting. And I also like the name Hydrohawk. All right, guys. We've only got 2 minutes left. And I was going to say for the first time, I'm going to make a hard stop at the hour, but that would not be the first time I have done that. That said, I do feel a fugue state setting in. I have been talking at you, and I think I should take a deep breath at some point. I do want to take just a moment in case you guys had a question that wasn't answered, a concern, an answer, and an opportunity to drop it in the chat. Otherwise, probably within the next hour, definitely within the next 24 hours, I will have a recap of this call posted, just in case you did miss anything. And I will post a recording as soon as possible. Might be a little different than the usual recordings. This is quite a bit longer. I have to edit these myself. just the math of it, it'll take me at least 90 minutes. So I will let you know as soon as that is live with a little tag. But if there's nothing else, I'm not seeing any questions pop up, just a lot of very polite and kind people. So thank you guys so much for your time today. I really appreciate how many of you have stayed on for the entire call. It was not really anticipated, but it is really appreciated. And also, just to be clear, this call is for you guys functionally. So if there's anything I can do to improve it, to make it work better for you or the community as a whole, never hesitate to let me know. It's really appreciated. So with that, thank you guys all so much. I'm going to end the stage from here. Hope to see you out there.